Hello and welcome back to Hold On I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to a preview of UFC 297, which is headlined by Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis for the middleweight title, with a co-main event of Raquel Pennington versus Maya Bueno Silva for the vacant women's bantamweight title. That's right, the bantamweight division we all care about. As per usual, I'm joined by my regular co-host Tom Ballum. Tom, it's been a while, but we are back previewing UFC 297. The fans, the listeners, they're hyped, they're excited to hear us talk about this card. How hyped are you to talk about this card, which is going to be momentous, I presume?
Joe, for the fans, anything for the fans.
Always.
Yeah. So much that I can manufacture true joy and glee at the prospect of this card. I will say this main event that has piqued my curiosity. But you know what, Joe? In that co-main event, I think the UFC has missed an opportunity. Right? They dropped the ball. Because what they could have done instead is cancel the entire division and stop broadcasting it.
Okay, that's probably a better shout. Yeah, that is probably a better shout. Yeah, pretty strange co-main event. There was a slight fear for a while that would be the main event, which, listeners, I know you're used to our patented 20-minute breakdowns of the main event. You would have not gotten that on that main event, and you won't get that on this co-main event either. But listeners, enough of the joshing, enough of the japes. We're going to go straight into it. We're going to preview UFC 297. We're going to make a prediction for each fight, me and Tom, on the main card, all 5 fights. And if we get the winner correct, we get 1 point. And if we get the method correct as well, that's 2 points. 10 points on offer. First card of the year that we're previewing. Tom is the
who's the champ, Joe? Tell him.
Sadly, you are the champ. You snuck a win at the end of last year due to Tony Ferguson not being totally washed or Paddy Pimblett being that bad. Depends on how you want to run that one.
You dropped that ball, Joey. You dropped that ball. That was easy. It was written. You bet on Paddy Pimblett. You bet against Tony. What have you become, you monster?
Wait, hold on. Who did you pick?
I picked Paddy, but not to win, but in any convincing manner. And in the end, he clung on. Let's be honest. He was not looking good at the end of that fight. So, yeah, it was an obvious one, but we'll forgive you, Joe. It's a new year. We're into 2024, and we're going to get straight into it with this main event fight. Now, Sean Strickland, Dricus Du Plessis, I'm excited about it, but I actually want to open the discussion with a comment from none other than the co-main star, Mayra Bueno Silva.
Yeah.
It was put to her that, well, Sean had said he'd saved the card, right? He'd come in and rescued it. She said, on paper, okay, it's 2 bad fights for the fans. Love that woman. She is at least honest.
Okay.
But when we enter the octagon, I will perform in a good way. And Dricus Du Plessis, he does good fights too. I don't remember watching any good fights from Sean Strickland. I don't remember a good fight. Fair play, girl. Is that true? Do you expect a boring Sean Strickland fight? Is this another one? Or is it different?
No. I think... okay. This is the thing with Sean Strickland, is that we've talked about it before, and even going into the Izzy fight, there is the disconnect of, I'm willing to go out there and die out there for you. I will fight to the end. I will throw down with anyone, as he then proceeds to pitter-patter jab his way to a 49-46 win. And then does the final 10 seconds. Come on, let's do it. Let's throw down, as he then throws a calf kick and backs up. There's always that disconnect with Sean Strickland for me. One that I don't think he'll ever get over. I think it's kind of ingrained into him, that sort of fighting style now. I would like to point out that also, people might make some comments towards Silva that might be a bit unfair after saying that, criticising Strickland. Doesn't Silva have more finishes in the UFC than Sean Strickland? I think she's got 6 to Strickland's 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damning, Sean.
It is.
Well, let me come to Sean's defense, because I can see you're not rushing to do it, Joe. I'm pumped for this fight. I think this is really exciting. Sean Strickland is the middleweight champion. He just dethroned Israel Adesanya, dropped him, went to work on him. Comprehensive victory, amazing. I think we haven't got to our review of 2024, but that's got to be up there with the shots.
Well, we got 12 months to go before our review of 2024.
Yeah, sorry. 2023, of course. 2023. It all becomes one, Joe, at a certain age. Yeah, I'm really excited for this fight, and Sean did do a great performance. He beat one of the greatest middleweights of all time.
Yep.
And a man that no one thought he could beat, and he beat him in his own way. He didn't change his own style. He played his own game, and it was too much for Israel Adesanya. I am super excited for this fight.
It's not because of Sean Strickland. It's because of Dricus Du Plessis, I assume.
No, it is. It's Joe. Sean Strickland is the champ. Like, embrace the new reality. It's still troubling for me, but he is. Like, he's the man right now.
Okay, remove the fact that it was Israel Adesanya and it was a title fight. If you just watch that fight, Sean Strickland against whoever in a main event, and you saw that performance, that wouldn't have hyped you up. The thing that hyped you up about it was a title fight. The performance there was, I got to say, extremely poor from Adesanya. And for me, on the Strickland side of things, was, again, not particularly inspiring in terms of either entertainment, in terms of martial arts skill, in terms of any of those things that draws me in. And then factoring in still the disconnect of, I will die out there, let's go down. And people clip that thing of him like following Izzy around, going like, come on, let's do it, let's go, for the final 15 seconds, like it's Holloway Lamas. Except those two actually did throw down and swing at each other, even though Holloway had clearly won. And then he's just like, come on, let's do it. And he's just pouring out a jab. It was terrible. It was terrible.
I see no difference. Like, Sean had clearly won this fight. He had dominated the champion. The only difference would be if Lamas... What? You're saying it was a close fight up to that point?
No. I'm not saying it's close. I didn't say it was close. What I'm saying is...
And Sean dropped him.
No, what I'm saying is that Holloway and Lamas said, like, Holloway had won. He didn't need to do that. He pointed to the ground and they started swinging, and they did land on each other. Holloway more on Lamas, but they did start swinging it out. Strickland's like, come on, let's swing it out, as he's backing up, and then he just pours a jab.
Yeah, if Israel, so you should blame Israel Adesanya for that, because if he engaged with Strickland, he's getting finished.
No, because every time Strickland always does that. No, he wasn't going to finish him. No, I'd never heard such nonsense in my entire life. Even when he did it against Hermansson, he said, like, come on, let's do it, and Hermansson stepped towards him, and then Strickland calf kicked him and backed up. So again, like,
I'll give it to you. All right, Sean, he does have that proclivity. Yeah, he is inclined to that behaviour. I just can't really understand how you can point to the Israel Adesanya fight and criticise Sean Strickland. It actually blows my mind. But we see the face and the sound of a hater.
Who, me?
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to hate, Joe. It's okay to hate.
I haven't even broke down this fight yet, and you will see that I'm not a hater of Sean at all.
Let's go. Well, before that, let's talk about DDP and how he got here, because he's also coming off a huge win, a massive upset. Are you going to criticise him? You hate him as well?
No, the performance against Whittaker was superb. Really bamboozled Whittaker, to be honest. And you do see that in all of DDP's fights, which is, we've talked about it before, in that he just explodes into action. Like, he has these like sharp explosions. And what you notice is, if you watch like the Tavares fight or the Brunson fight or the Whittaker fight, he does explode, but there's no linking rhythm between any of them. Like, it will be literally, he'll explode with like a high kick and then follow it up with a straight against Tavares. He'll, double jab Brunson straight to the body, then a calf kick at the end of it. Or in the case of Whittaker, it's explode in, pull back, and then explode again. Like, there's no set patterns with Du Plessis, and I think it's actually because
just explosion, Joe.
It's explosion.
Explosion is the
but
pattern.
He's very tactical. Like, this is the thing. He finds the weakness in these guys, and he's like, right, I'm going to explode, but I need to explode into a thing that's going to get this guy out of there. And he's definitely got that game plan set for Strickland. I'm pretty sure I know what it is that he's going to go for, but you will see that. But it's just that I can't watch the Tavares fight and go like, oh, DDP's going to do this against him, because he probably won't. That's what he did for Tavares, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas Strickland, his performance against Cannonier, that Abus bum that he got rid of, Adesanya.
He beat Cannonier.
Well, he lost to Cannonier, but anyway.
No, he beat him.
Well, should we go on to Tapology? We can look at what the record says. What he did in those three fights is exactly the same as what he's going to do in this fight. It's going to be double jab, pitter-patter jab, right straight behind it, teep to the body, pressing him up against the cage, jabbing him, following him around from there. No huge knockout, huge moments other than an attritional knockout of Abus. And then the one time he exploded in his entire UFC career, he did knock down Adesanya. So I do like to think that maybe Sean will do that in this fight.
Let me just jump in there. Like SafeSo did preview this fight again for the UFC. We've given a nod to that before. You can go on the UFC channel and watch it. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to.
No, I've not watched it.
He highlighted, some technical details behind these finishes, and he basically said that Sean was setting up that strike that eventually knocked Israel down much earlier in the fight. He had noticed that as he backed Izzy up, Izzy would get back to the cage, feel the cage, and then step out with a little left-hand jab, and be ready to circle off. He'd give himself a little bit of space with that. Once he felt the cage, just that little bit of that get you like off him for a moment so he can circle out. Sean obviously had teased that out of him because he'd been backing him up the whole fight, constant pressure which Israel could not cope with, and he basically waited for Israel to throw out his little left hand, and then immediately as Israel's loading it up, Sean comes straight down the middle with the right hand and drops him. Beautiful stuff. He was
really
ready
lovely.
for it. Much in the same way that Dricus was ready for Robert to kind of duck down as he starts his attack. He kind of comes down, and before as soon as he ducked down, Dricus knew that the lead hand was coming, so he was ready to hit that counter. So both these guys do have some smarts in the octagon. They do set up their strikes, and I can see what you're saying. There's a bit more flair to Dricus. It's a bit less orderly.
Flair is one word for it. I don't know if that's. When I think of flair, I think of like Anderson Silva. Like this, it's not smooth, is how I would put it. It's very
no.
It's very much like, this is how I'm going to have to finish you. I can kind of do a high kick, but it's going to not be a technically right high kick, if that makes sense. Or it's not going to be a technically right counter left hook or whatever.
All right, Joe. For Dricus Du Plessis, he is the challenger. How should he fight this fight? What do you think we're going to see from him?
I think he is going to take down Strickland. I think that's going to be the approach. He's going to try and wrestle him, take him down, get him sort of thinking of that. I think the first round will be Dricus overpowering Strickland and wrestling him. And I do think that will probably be what happens in the first round. If that's the case, I think Strickland will lose that first round. That doesn't mean, by the way, I'm thinking Strickland's going to lose this fight. Like, that doesn't mean anything if he loses that first round. But I imagine that's what he's going to do. Either then to set up a finish on the ground, or to then open up the strikes up top.
Walk me through a bit more of this takedown. Where does it take place? How does it come about?
Well, he has to sort of either catch Strickland when he lifts his right rear leg for his teep. You know how he sort of lifts the rear leg to like teep to the body or to step through.
Yeah, just to make the space for himself to set. He's got to up.
He'll catch him in that point. Is what I imagine how he's going to get a takedown. Or I know this might sound rudimentary, but I reckon he could bum rush him just like into a takedown, because I have seen Dricus do it before. I have seen him implement that sort of game plan. But I think the rear leg coming up, I think that's something that Dricus will probably want to exploit. I know he's better on the ground than Sean is.
Hold on, I gotta jump in. I gotta say my piece here.
Go on.
I don't think he takes him down
at all in the fight.
No, I mean, I think it's something definitely he would look to exploit. I mean, it's the way he has to get a takedown to kind of even out their cardio. I know we're going to get to that, but Dricus needs that kind of domination. He needs to sap Sean of energy, and he needs to do it early. But I actually think Sean is pretty great at fending off takedowns and great balance, and I think he's well set. I understand what you're saying about him lifting the leg for the teep, but Sean Strickland has an 84% takedown defense, and I just don't think that's going to be a big avenue for Dricus. I do think they'll meet in the clinch. Be an interesting space, but I think Strickland's pretty good at managing that as well.
Sean Strickland doesn't really get into clinch exchanges, though, does he? Whenever he gets into a clinch exchange, it's more pushes you off and then strikes on the break, really, isn't it?
I'd say it's more people trying to wrap up Sean to deal with that pressure, you know?
Yeah.
I'd say that's how they... And he can handle that. He can handle that. I mean, when you fight on the front foot like Sean often does, then, you need to be ready for people to mix in clinches and takedowns. And I think that's fundamental to his style, is the fact that he is able to cope with that. So... Yeah, I'm not sure. I agree that Dricus will be looking for it. I'm not as convinced as you that he will find it. If it doesn't play out like that, Dricus can't find a takedown. What does the fight start to look like then?
Well, we know what it's going to look like from the Strickland side. Again, it is going to be the classic Strickland style. That's why I tend to look more at like what is Dricus potentially going to exploit. Again, I do think about the rear leg lift. If he could then, let's say Sean lifts his right leg, if Dricus can chop him with a calf kick on the left leg as he does that, like if he can find that timing, that could be an avenue for him to slow Strickland down. I also do think that because Strickland does get a bit square at times, it could again lead to a takedown from there. Sure. I also do think because he gets a bit square, and I know that people talk about this Philly shell thing and whatever else. He doesn't look. He does it in MMA, yes, but he doesn't do it particularly well. Like it's slightly different in the space of MMA, so it makes it sort of stand out a bit more. But it does lead you to like being open to body shots, and then I think for Dricus to then come up from there. I also do think Dricus has KO potential over Sean as well. Like I'm sure you agree with that, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's that can't be disputed. Dricus is
no, it cannot.
Dricus is he is quite the specimen. You know, he's freakish.
Yeah, I know there's the same height and they got the same arm length, but the doesn't. No, I don't. I'm not having it.
Dricus is all torso, man. He's all torso. He's the Ricky Simone of middleweight, and it's that classic, like, you know, corn-fed farm boy kind of. You know what I'm saying? He's a smaller block as well. No, power definitely lies in the hands of Dricus. I mean, it was an explosion that did for Whittaker. It was a thunderous shot that ended up putting him away.
Oh my God,
that was the mismatch. That was the mismatch in their fight. You remember when it went to the ground?
Oh God,
was manhandling him in there.
Yeah, so then do you not factor that into if it goes to the ground? Like, Dricus does really weird things on the ground anyway. He does like these really weird sweeps and rolls that you don't really see, you know. He did, as you say, manhandle Whittaker, who... That was the first time Whittaker kind of looked really small at middleweight. Like, you know... But then Dricus is
So you're saying Sean, the former welterweight, you know, could be undersized. I wouldn't say that I've seen Sean looking... You know, underpowered. Apart from against Alex Pereira, who's the current light heavyweight champion.
Yes. To be honest, I never really thought Sean was a welterweight, really.
No.
Do you know what I mean? He was always a middleweight. In the same way that Whittaker was always a middleweight. It's just that they could get to 170. That doesn't mean that they should be at 170, you know. So yeah, I always felt like Sean was, when you got to middleweight, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, again, I don't know how you see Dricus absolutely manhandle Whittaker on the ground and not think something similar might happen to Strickland, no? Like, can you not foresee that?
It's just, like, I mean, the way it ended up on the ground, if I'm not mistaken, Whittaker was a bit dazed, no? That's what led to them ending up on the mat. Yeah, I just think that, I do think Sean... I know you hate him, Joe, but he is a little bit special in his kind of distance management and the way he can roll with punches, the way he can stay in the pocket, but just out of it. There are not many men who can just stand and trade with. I mean, I know you'll take a section to trade, but let's just say stand. There might not be that much trading, but stand with men like Cannonier, you know, without any fear of getting clipped. Explosive, powerful guys like that, and Sean can do it, you know. Sean can do it. You hate it, but he did the whole fight against Adesanya.
No, I don't hate him at all. You know, I find him, as I've said before, and you did mock me for this, I do find him quite a compelling character. And I think, you know, that's come out from that press conference and that interview with Theo Von, and and all that. He's definitely an interesting guy. I just think he stinks. Like, I just don't think I don't. When I think of like the best fighters in the world, pound for pound, top 10, there's no way on earth I can put Sean Strickland in the top 10 pound for pound fighters in the world. Like, I just cannot do it.
So how bad is Israel Adesanya?
Yeah, really. How bad is he, or was he on that night? Like really, how bad was he that he lost to that guy?
Well, like we went through this. We're on tape.
Yeah, and I take it back, by the way, and also I want to give like Eric Nixick some credit, because I do actually think he's probably the best coach in the world. Like, he is a brilliant mind for the sport. He's a smart guy. I mean, he coached Ngannou to that performance against Tyson Fury. I know he wasn't the head coach, but still he was in the corner. He was in the game planning of that fight. He's a smart dude who knows what he's doing. And there were some things in there, like, remember the Whittaker knockout Adesanya had? Adesanya loaded up for that a couple times, and every time Whittaker saw it before it was happening and sort of ducked down and up-jabbed him from there. So it's like, Sean Strickland's not like a dumb fighter. Like, he's a good fighter. I take it back that he stinks. It's just that he's got, like, not enough about him for me to ever be endeared by him. And I find his personality interesting but counterintuitive to his actual fighting style, which is irritating. Whereas Dricus, who is a moron, is a brilliant fighter to watch, even though he is deeply flawed as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't...
Oh, he's exciting. He's must-watch. He's must-see TV. And Sean,
exactly.
Sean is not. Sean, no. I'm with all that, Joe.
Yeah.
But Sean is the champ. He just beat Israel Adesanya. Like, it happened. Like, we have to accept it. And he's become a little bit of a brand and a star before that, and that's really, lit the touch paper on it. Let me ask you one question now before we go to your prediction.
Yeah, go on.
Unless there's something else you want to get out there. Okay. So look, who has the better record of these two fighters?
Dricus.
Okay, because I don't
agree.
I don't agree. No, I don't agree. If I look at Dricus' record, I think it's really, really, really hollow.
What?
I look at Brad Tavares. He was lucky to get out of that fight. Lucky to get out of that fight with a win. He was very, very poor. It was touch and go in there. Darren Till, totally washed.
Right.
There were moments in...
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, keep going. After you do the next one, I'm going to interrupt, okay?
Well, yeah, the next... Sure, but that doesn't compare to Adesanya. You got Brunson. Yeah. Brunson, who we know was just washed. Obviously, I mean, you remember the first round of that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, Whittaker, which is... He beat Robert a huge Whittaker. Win. Big upset. The only bigger upset I can think is Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya, Joe. No. You got to suck on them eggs, brother. No, I'm sorry.
No. Hold on. What is Sean Strickland's best two wins? Because Dricus Du Plessis' best two wins are Robert Whittaker and Roberto Soldic. He beat Roberto Soldic.
Yeah.
When Soldic was the fucking man, yeah.
All right, well, obviously, I'm talking about in their UFC run.
Okay, fine.
All right? I'm not going back to KOTC, whatever that is, in Oklahoma. Norman, Oklahoma. Norman, Oklahoma, 2011. Yeah, okay. For Sean Strickland.
So what's Sean Strickland's best wins then?
His best wins. All right, so he's got Imavov.
At 205, when Imavov had cut to 185, and Strickland had to come in on a week's notice and can only do 205. Imavov weighed in at 195. Strickland weighed in at 205.
Yeah, and Imavov, bigger built guy anyway, made for a.
What on earth? No, I'm sorry, man. You are absolutely drinking the Kool-Aid here. I'm sorry, man. Strickland looked so much bigger than him in that fight.
He knocked out Brendan Allen.
Who stinks? Next.
No, I'm sorry, Joe. I'm going to have to refer to the rankings here and just give you a little bit of a reality check. Brendan Allen is cruising through this division. He's ranked 7 now already.
It's a terrible division, man. Are you telling me that middleweight's a good division?
I just want you to accept reality, all right? I just want you to see Sean basically, he's won 9 fights out of his 10, really. He beat Cannonier. You might not want to acknowledge it, but he beat him. He didn't beat Cannonier. He beat Uriah Hall. He knocked out
Uriah Hall.
Allen.
Oh, my God. Nordine Taleb, do you want to get that in there? Court McGee, whilst we're at it. He also has losses to Santiago Ponzinibbio.
I'm talking about his middleweight run.
He lost to Ponzinibbio and he lost to Usman.
That wasn't middleweight.
Oh wow, he's got to win over Jack Marshman. Wow, tremendous.
Sean Strickland has a better record show, and he is going to win this fight on Saturday night. And I'm going to come back on here and I'm going to rain all over your parade. All right, you're going to start 2024 like you ended 2023. Sucking on them eggs, bowing down to the champ. Now look, Joe, we've been in discussions here. It's got to be a rule change for the scoring. All right,
why?
We've got to recognise these big events. We've got to recognise these big events. We've got to double up the points for them, for the main event, for the big show, the big fights. We've got to double them points. That's what the fans want. All right, that's what the fans want.
All right, we can do it for the next card. This card we've set it, but we can do it. We can discuss it for the next card. You can't be throwing rule changes at me in the middle of the game. That's not fair. All right.
Look, Joe, that's
like if you're adding some rules to Monopoly in the middle of the game. Oh, actually, that's done.
And I do that. I do.
No,
that,
you can't. No, you can't do that.
And guess who the champ is? Look, I know. You got
mollywopped
all year. They'll be in the
on.
comments and they'll be telling you how it is. Now look, Sean Strickland.
Adam, back me up.
He's going to win by Kyle, I know you're a rational man. Now look, it's a decision win for Sean Strickland.
Okay, fair enough. Now, what if I
I can't even imagine the state Dricus Du Plessis will be in by the 5th round. I can't imagine that. But he does seem to be able to be totally gassed and still chug.
We didn't actually talk about the cardio thing. Do you not think Dricus takes rounds off?
Yes.
Yes, because he knows his cardio has to last a certain amount of time. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Because he's very limited. Yeah.
In terms, I don't think he's very limited. I just think
Joe,
you got
to put it on the line, brother. Put it on the line.
Well, what if I told you that I've picked Sean Strickland to win?
Then you're a sad, sad little man.
Because I picked Dricus Du Plessis to win by knockout. That's what I've picked.
By knockout?
Yeah, I think he's going to knock him out. I think he's going to finish him on the ground. I think it's going to... There's two scenarios I see for this fight, which is Dricus is just so much better than him, and that it's a complete mismatch, or Dricus gasses himself out and Strickland just walks him down for 20 minutes. Those are the two scenarios I'm seeing. And the one that I lean towards more is Dricus just being that much better than him, and I really do think he has that potential. Now, can we just continue talking about this fight for just a moment longer? What do you make of the build?
Well, Lord knows I don't want to talk about the next fight, so...
Oh, wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
Should we just do that quickly? Who are you picking, Pennington or Silva?
Nah, come on.
No, joking.
Give me it on this fight. Give me it on this fight.
Okay.
I have a few words to say about Bueno Silva.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about...
She's going to win.
She's going to win. Yeah, she's going to win as well. Yeah, okay, cool. So, Strickland DDP, the build to it has been awful. Truly awful, I think. Do you think we're at this sort of, crossing the Rubicon moment of, are we going to keep pressing into this style of build? Or do you reckon that this is just an anomaly? Because if they do every fight build like this of horrible comments about people's childhoods and brawling in the stands, it gets a bit tiring, doesn't it? You need it only once every 5 years before it to really mean something, in my opinion. But what do you make of it?
Joe, I think it's always there. It's always in the shadows, and now it's coming into the light. And I think that's undercurrent runs through the sport, and I don't hate it. I mean, I hate it. As you say, if it's an ongoing constant and it's just necessary to grab any attention, then that's sad. I don't think we're at that spot. This is the fight to say, okay, are we crossing the Rubicon, and then the potential ramifications of a win for either of these guys and who they fight next and how that gets built. But I don't think it runs across the sport because there are some other big fights coming up which I don't think have any of that built into them. So, yeah. I mean, I also don't hate it.
Right.
Not with these two guys. I find this intriguing between them.
Did you not find it particularly horrible, that sort of Strickland's Du Plessis trash talk?
No.
Man, it rubbed me the wrong way. But you're more into the
I don't think they would identify with your views, Joe. I think we can say that.
I'm happy for that to be the case. Don't worry. That's okay.
Yeah.
If I don't agree with Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis on women in the workplace and what is a real African, so I'm okay with that. Thank you. Speaking of real Africans, Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Neither of them are African, but they are definitely fighting for the bantamweight title, the women's bantamweight title. Raquel Pennington fought for the title before, Tom. Do you remember this? She fought Amanda Nunes, and she got absolutely brutalized for 22 and a half minutes. Like, it was horrendous. And yeah.
Do you know who else she's fought, Joe? She fought Holly
Irene
Holm.
Aldana. She lost to Holly Holm.
Lost that. Juraine Demandane.
Yeah.
Lost that as well.
Yeah.
Jessica Andrade.
So when she fights someone good, she loses.
That is a theme I'm seeing in her record. By the way, which is 15-8. Joe, how many finishes are there in those 15 fights?
In the entirety of her career?
Has she finished anyone? And when was
she
that?
She must have 4.
No, Joe. She has 1 on something called MFP Vengeance, which took place in
one
Wyoming.
One finish in an entire career.
Yes.
What? KOs, subs, the
like
whole thing.
1 KO. No, she has a technical submission early in her UFC career.
Yeah, I don't count subs. That's not real. That's not real fighting. Is that what you're saying?
No, right. I mean, obviously there is the Macy Chiasson fight as well. All right, in her recent run. But what I'm saying is, like, I am talking about knockouts. Talking about
right. Okay.
Like, you're at
good
that
stuff.
stage. She's not starting out on the road, Joe. She's 35 years old, and she has 1 knockout to her. And she's a bantamweight. Like, that's not the small ladies. That's the
no.
That's the heavyweight. That's Brock, Tom Aspinall, Overeem. They have finishes. Anyway, I'm not excited about it, but Bueno Silva, she does have some finishes. All right, coming off a couple of submissions, bit tricky on the ground.
Yeah,
it's fair to say.
Yeah,
anything more to her than that, Joe?
No. It's the grappling. It's that's all it is for her. I mean, she's got pretty interesting sort of like takedown sort of record here. I mean, she had that weird finish of Stephanie Egger, where she armbarred her, but Egger kind of armbarred herself. Like, she put her arm into the armbar, and it was just like, well, I guess she did armbar her, but not really. But she does attack subs a lot more. Like, she's not just like holding position, so she will attack a sub and end up out of position. Her takedowns aren't really that great. She doesn't land that many of them. But to be honest, I don't see how Pennington really wins this fight. She doesn't have any real finishing ability, whereas Silva actually does. She actually finishes quite a few people quite consistently, no? Like, didn't she...
it's Holly Holm in her last fight as well.
Yeah, Holly Holm. Yeah, so she's got quite a few.
3-fight sub streak. So how do you see it finishing then, Joe?
She's going to sub her. She's going to sub Pennington. What else can I really say about this fight? Let's move on. I don't want to talk about this.
I picked decision just for the official record. All right, the next fight, Joe. It's Neil Magny. Is that a name that gets the juices flowing?
No.
How about Mike Malot?
No.
What about Mike Malott?
Maybe, but
yeah, not sure how to pronounce that, but yeah, that's the next fight that's happening. I don't know. Malott, he is, he's the hometown kid. He's looked fun. He's looked pretty good in his last fight. No, you remember that?
Yeah.
Back at UFC 289, last time UFC was in Canada, I think, for a main event over in Vancouver. Adam Fugit.
Yep.
Succumbed to a sub. Bit handy on the ground is Mike Malott. I don't hate this fight.
It's an interesting one. It's like, are we going to get another guy in the welterweight rankings? If you beat Magny, you should be ranked, I would say.
Those are the rules.
Yeah, I think Malott. Let's go with Malott. I think he's going to eat Magny's calves up. I think he's going to be chopping away at those trunks. he just basically has to follow the Ian Gary game plan for Magny, which is just chop away at those legs, and just sort of work him to the ground from there, work him into the clinch from there, with his sort of like reduced mobility. Obviously, if you get into a clinch game with Magny, that's not always the best thing to do. So actually, I take that back. He should probably just be jabbing him at range to the body as well. Thing is, actually, with Magny is that like if someone jabs to the body, I always just think a knee up the middle is like such a killer move. But Magny doesn't throw any knees, does he? Unless he's in the clinch, and he's more of an elbows guy. He's more of an elbows guy anyway. Is there a way for Magny to win this for you? Do you think he's going to do the Neil Magny performance? That I always remember your description of like fighting Neil Magny of just like this tiring, exhausting experience, and you just feel his dreads just like bouncing off your face. And you're like, oh, for God's sake! You're like
wading in like you're wading in like tar, and there's just limbs all over you, and just slowly sinking into the tar. Yeah, I think there is potential for that. I think it's a good test for Malot, and that's why I quite like this. Or not Malot. That's why I quite like this fight. I don't see the kicking game. I don't see him following the Ian Gary kind of path. That was a whooping, by the way, a brutal whooping, very public whooping for Magny. Obviously much made of the kind of trash talk, if you'll call it that, from Gary leading into it. Yeah, the child abuse stuff, which he plucked out of nowhere, and yeah, it was cringe. But the thing is, he put a whooping. Yeah, it broke him down. I don't think Malot will be able to do that. Six leg attacks made by Malot so far in his UFC career.
Oh, really?
Yes. Wow. So I'm not sure we'll see quite the same game plan. I think he wants to get it to a grappling exchange, really.
Not always something I would do against Magny. Magny's got such good leverage. He's got
this
really,
is why...
Yeah.
And like we're teasing away here, Joe. We're working hard. We're deep down in the trenches. We're digging and we're mining, and you're teasing out the interest of this fight, all right? How does Malot live inside that 80-inch reach? How does he cope with the tar? All right, can he get out of the tar? If he can, he enters the welterweight rankings, and I think he'll do it.
Yeah, same. I think so as well. I think he's gonna get a nice sort of neat decision victory over Magny. Sort of where like Neil kind of gives up on himself a little bit, not like to the level of that Ponzinibbio beating, but the sort of like all right, I guess I've lost this one sort of. Magny performance, where Magny's like, oh, he needs to get a finish. Neil is like, I am not finishing this, man. I cannot finish. So, I'm going for Malot by decision. It just feels right, I guess. I don't know. Like, I feel like Magny got a little bit more exposed by Gary, but Gary's like, for all his idiocy, and he is an idiot. He's a very athletic idiot, and he just really.
Oh, he's a great fighter.
Yeah, he's very fun, and he's very smooth when he wants to be. I do think do have a bit of an issue with Gary. There's, I don't know, something I think maybe his chin is a little bit suspect. That's all, and I think it comes from overcommitting. And I think that Jeff Neal fight he's got coming up, which I cannot wait for that. Woo! UFC 298, cannot wait for that. That is going to be an absolute scorcher. So looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to Mike Malot's decision victory. We need to pick on a name. We will have it by the review, and I apologise to you, Michael.
Well, yeah, I think Malot thrives in the tar, Joe. I think he finds I think he loves it. I think he loves it down there in the tar. I think he loves those limbs flinging around, and I think he wraps up a sub.
Nice. I'd be surprised if he was able to do that. Now, Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Awooga. This is going to bang a little bit. I think this is going to be good. Barriault is a guy who seems to like taking a bit of punishment so then he can start to dish it back out. Remember the one against, was it Julian Marquez? Where Marquez was like whooping him, and Barriault was just like eating these shots.
Rope-a-doped him,
and then just absolutely mashed him. I'm actually surprised Marquez stayed upright. I mean, he was barely upright, and I think the cage was helping him up. But excuse me. I thought Barriault looked particularly impressive in that, and even in the Eric Anders one, where like wasn't really much of an issue for him, and sort of kind of sent Anders flying a few times as well. I've been impressed by Barrio's last couple of performances. Whereas Chris Curtis, on the other hand, a man who could very easily cruise to a decision loss and then be upset about it. Like he can kind of get caught in the rhythm of his opponents.
The Jack Hermansson fight, I think you're referencing there, Joe.
And the Gastelum one as well.
He got kickboxed into oblivion by Jack Hermansson.
Yeah.
Really. He made him look elite.
Yeah. No, he did. He really, really did. He's been off for a while, though. He's been off for about 6 months. He had quite a high output from 2022 into 2023. I think... I don't know. I want to see if Curtis can fight at a different rhythm in this fight. If he can sort of fight outside of himself, I think he can just get caught up in this, trying to catch you with a hook over your jab hand, and Barrio does square himself.
He's quite one-dimensional. He's quite one-dimensional.
Chris Curtis.
He doesn't mix much in. Yeah. He loves them hands. Yeah. I mean, begrudging body kick, so we can start working the hands again. I mean, and it only ever comes from one side, and it only ever goes to one place. Yeah. And Hermansson was able to just stick and move, danced around him, and wouldn't engage him on his terms, and he just didn't make any adjustments to deal with that.
Yeah. It was a very odd performance. Yeah.
So that brings about the question then: Marc-Andre Barrio, how one-dimensional is he?
He's pretty one-dimensional as well.
I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, I have picked Barrio to win by knockout, though.
Right. Wow. You don't. Yeah. So you think he'll oblige Curtis then, or not?
Oh, for sure. They will oblige each other. I just think that the output and ferocity of Barrio will be able to overwhelm Curtis. And I think Curtis can be finished, and I think he is there to be finished. I know he bounces around, he's got good side-to-side movement, but once Barrio gets you flat up against that cage, which he can do, it's normally also from a lead leg teep, where he's basically just trying to push you back. And against Julian Marquez, he caught him with a counter which rocked him, and then he turned him and started working him against the cage. Against Eric Anders as well, just threw a long jab to the body. As well, I could see that happening against Curtis. Yeah, I don't know. I felt what was in my gut. I felt like this was a bad card, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go with the gut feeling on this one. I've gone for a Barrio knockout.
They have a term in poker for a man who just keeps losing, who just can't get a break. Get a break. You lost the championship again.
I lost once.
No. All right, Joe. They call it tilt. All right, and that is what you're experiencing now. You're out lost at sea. Yeah, and basically listening to everything you say there, and I see it the opposite. I think if you oblige Curtis on his terms, you're getting whooped. I think if you change it up a bit, then the world is your oyster. But I also think Barrio will oblige him also. Yeah. And my conclusion is that he loses because of that. Curtis will stick his 1-2. Barrio will still be there. He'll play this kind of metronome card where he's just he's just not going away, and I think Curtis will light him up. So we see it quite differently there.
Fair enough.
I think you might have put too much weight in these last two performances. I'm with you. He's looked good against Marquez and Anders, but you need to dig in a little bit more. You need to think about him losing to Krzysztof Jotko and Park Yun-Yong and Andrew Sanchez. And of course getting KO'd by Chidi and Jukwani.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel that those fights where you had the loss to Gastelum, you had the loss to Imavov, or the no contest with Imavov, I should say, but I don't know. I just wasn't that impressed with Curtis in the last two fights, and I don't know. He has to do something to turn me back in his favour. So, hence the Barrio pick. Now let's talk about this fight. This is the fight. So,
sorry, Barrio knockout, just for the for the history.
Just so you can put that in your spreadsheet. Let's talk about this fight. This is the one I'm actually so unbelievably excited for. Arnold Allen is back, and he is facing Movsar Evloev. Oh my lord, am I excited for this? Evloev, what is his takedown percentage? It's high, isn't it? He has an extremely high amount of takedowns, 1.12 average per 15 minutes. Sorry, I take that back. 4.71. That's Arnold Allen. 4.71 per 15 minutes. Arnold Allen has not been taken down, I believe, in his last 7 fights. So this is the case of who is going to be able to get off more, their takedown defense or takedown offense? I say, Tom, a bit of both. I think Evloev probably will be able to take Allen down. I don't know if he'll necessarily be able to hold him down, though, because Evloev has very little submission threat. He has a position threat. And if you saw that fight, obviously, with Leon Edwards against Colby Covington, and then the fight against Kamaru Usman as well last year for Leon, those guys don't have submission threats, so he's not too worried about getting taken down because he'll just work his way back up. You can take the back, it's fine. I'll work my way back up. And I could see that happening here with Arnold Allen and Evloev. Evloev will take Allen down, and I don't think it will be for very long, personally.
Let me interject on that quickly. Evloev is very cautious. That's why we don't see that submission threat. He doesn't take many risks. He likes his position, over offense, over any risk. And of course that can make it harder to get up if a man fights like that, if he doesn't try to explode or lock up any kind of submission. And so, you might find Allen not really getting those opportunities, although we have to say he is quite explosive down at featherweight. He's usually the more powerful man in his fights. Yeah,
I mean, the Dan Hooker one, even, I know Hooker should not have been fighting at 145.
Blew him away.
Yeah, just blew him away. Absolutely. I think Allen's issue as well is that his output can be a bit low as well. Like that Sadiq Youssef fight where Sadiq Youssef outstruck him, but every time Allen landed, it was rocking Sadiq Youssef, or it knocked him down, or it caused Youssef to pause. That is the Allen issue, is that he just doesn't put enough out there at times. I thought, in the loss to Holloway, I thought he gave a really good account of himself against Max. I know you don't believe so as well, which is fine.
I think Max absolutely cruised to that victory. I thought that was easy money for Max. Joe, look, before that fight and after it briefly, although you seem to have let go of it now, you were saying Allen will for sure be a future champion. You're not really putting this case across here. He needs to get this win over Evloev. That would prove that he's still right there. Yep. I think we both agree on that. And yet the odds makers, they have Evloev as quite a strong favourite going in here. So what's the game plan for Arnold Allen?
It's going to have to be the down pushing, keeping those hands low for the takedowns that are going to come. And then also to not allow yourself to get caught up against the back of the cage. Obviously, the example being, again, that we could go back to the recent example of Edwards versus Covington, where, Leon Edwards was able to push Covington to the back of the cage, but there was obviously something going on in that fight that we still don't know about and probably never will. That's what Allen has to do. He has to punish Evloev every time he comes in. If they meet in the middle, he has to punish him, particularly into clinch exchanges as well. So that is sort of my game plan thoughts for Allen. Evloev, on the other hand, I think will probably just stay as he is, which is the cautious outside striker who explodes into takedowns from there. Unlike his last fight, the Diego Lopez one, there is not much submission threat from Arnold Allen as well. So I don't know. It could end up being a slight stalemate at points, this fight. But I have high hopes here for both of these two to one of them make a stamp for the title. I am going with Arnold Allen, obviously, and I'm picking him by decision.
Yeah, I suspected you might. It'll be a very revealing fight for both of these fighters because I'm not sure where either of them is at. You get these young phenoms coming through, especially from the part of the world that Evloev is from, and you think, all right, that man is going to the top of this division, and he might just be the best. There might be him and then a huge gap, but we just haven't found it out yet because he hasn't been put in those biggest fights. Kind of like Islam Makhachev.
Right.
But I've never had that vibe from Evloev. I've never seen that.
That Makhachev sort of undoubted great.
Yeah, like the only thing stopping Makhachev being the champ was the fact they wouldn't give him the matchups. They denied him. There are plenty of fighters from that part of the world like that. Evloev, I just haven't seen that tier of performance where I'm like, this guy is meant to be, the next big thing. And a performance here against Arnold Allen, convincing one, it could help to avail me of that notion. I could get behind him. So I really like this fight. I think it makes sense, especially for Allen where he's at. Evloev still sat down ranked 9th in this division,
Very
despite
odd.
being 17-0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got to say I'm not. It's not clear to me how this is going to go, but I'm hoping for an Arnold Allen win, and that is enough for me to pick him.
And by what method?
I've gone for a decision win for Allen.
Good shout. Let's talk about the news that broke today. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF title set for UFC 300. Tom, you are pulling a face. I don't know whether it's one of that smells good or I'm very upset by this. Which one is it?
Love both guys. You can put both these guys in lots of matchups. You know, you can't really go wrong with either of them. Not really. You know what I'm saying? They're both really enticing fighters. Though one of the question marks for Max over his career can never be... There's a wrong that can never be righted, and that's getting cleaned out 3 times by Volkanovski. The other one is he couldn't cut it against the elite at lightweight. He went up. He put a great performance in against Poirier, but the power, the hooks, it was just too much for him. He couldn't trade in that weight class. He's getting older, he's getting longer in his career. Volkanovski is still the damn champion at featherweight. That could continue. A win here for Max at lightweight, Joe, against Justin Gaethje. Woo!
Yeah,
possibilities
that opens up,
are massive for him.
Yeah, it does open up new avenues for him.
So I love the fight.
Yeah, I will say, I did rewatch Poirier Holloway 2 over the break. Because it's a fight that we reference a lot.
Of course.
Yeah. We do refer to that fight quite a lot. You do forget that actually Max did come on in that fight in the 4th and 5th. And you know what stopped him was that Poirier threw this massive knee in the 5th where it like kind of paused Max, and I think it was like a power that obviously you just don't feel at featherweight. And I wonder if he's going to acclimatise to that in this one, but instead of like the knees, it's obviously the calf kicks. And I wonder if he's not going to have that heavy lead leg style. He's probably going to have his feet close together, like the second Volkanovski matchup where, you know, he kind of drew Volkanovski in. And I wonder if we're going to see Max more as a counter striker compared to the more sort of lead leg boxer. Also, Poirier landed, I think it was like something like 170 shots against Max. That's more than any of Gaethje's highest output. His highest output was the Ferguson beatdown, and then he's not really reached any levels close to that, obviously because he's finished people. But in his 5-round fight, that was what he got to. Max outstruck Dustin in that fight. So there are methods for Max to get a win. I know there's some people like, oh my god, Gaethje's going to kill him. I'm not that way inclined to believe. I don't think it's as cut and dry as Gaethje's just going to kill this dude.
I don't think it does much for Gaethje this fight.
I find it weird he's taking it. I thought the Makhachev fight was next.
Yeah. Everyone was ready to accept that. And, you know, at his stage in his career, he doesn't get many of them. I lost to Max, and that's off.
Yeah, weird fight to take. He must be getting paid quite a bit.
I suspect that's the case. Yeah. UFC 300, you know.
They keep banging on about UFC 300. I'm kind of like not that like drawn to the number. I'm just more drawn to the card. And people are like shitting on what's been announced. Like, oh, where's the big thing and whatever else. Do you not remember UFC 200? What a mess that card ended up being. And you're like,
wow.
Oh,
there was a reason for that one though. It was
John Jones and Connor not wanting to play ball. Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's that obviously fell apart. But if this card that what we're getting with the potential, people are upset at what the potential main event is, which is Leon versus Bilal 2. Like, they're not excited for that, and I understand, right? But if you had Leon versus Bilal as the main event, Gaethje Holloway, Prochazka Rakic, Oliveira Sarukian, and Zhang Yan Xiaonan as your main card of UFC 300, I'm sorry, man, that's a great card. That's a great card. And anyone complaining about that, well, you can go suck eggs, as Tom Ballum likes to say.
Joe, what about Habib versus Leon Edwards?
There was a moment when you texted me that, and I was just like, there's no way, is there? And I'm like, wait a second, it's during Ramadan. Of course he's not going to do that. It's ridiculous.
Joe did the research.
Yes. I was not impressed by that. Listen, man, this card looks great. You've got Jim Miller is on it against Bobby Green. That's going to be good. Davison Figueiredo, Cody Garbrandt, Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling. This is a good card.
Joe, what about Adesanya versus Pereira at light heavyweight?
Not interested.
Oh my God,
interested.
that's a huge
Not
fight
interested.
though. I know it's still out there. I know you are interested, but you want it later on. But they're ready to put anything. They want to put something huge on this.
Let me float this to you. Adesanya Pereira at heavyweight. What about that instead?
Is Pereira the heavyweight champ at this point, or not?
He will be, yes, if he defeats Tom Aspinall, and then obviously John vacates.
Tom Aspinall versus Pereira at heavyweight.
Would you not be excited for that? It'd be freakish.
I would be hella excited, but I think these are possible headliners for UFC 300. I think one of these fights could still be out there.
I think we need to accept that whoever's winning Strickland versus DDP, they're going to have to face Adesanya. Personally, I think Adesanya needs to face a contender. 3-2 in your last 5. With
Daniel Cormier, he wants DDP to fight. Adesanya to fight DDP, win or loss for DDP off this fight. I kind of get behind that.
Yeah, same.
That Adesanya fight, like the Strickland, if Strickland wins, let Adesanya fight somebody else and then go for it.
I think actually whoever wins this is probably going to face Adesanya in the headline of UFC 300. I think that's probably what they're waiting for. They're going to see what the turnaround's like. If it's DDP, they might try and push him into it again, which obviously he turned down last time. I don't know. I think that's probably what the case is. If it's Leon versus Belal 2, I'm very happy with that, personally. I think Leon's going to put on a whooping, and it won't be very competitive.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, fantastic. Listeners, we'll be back next week to review this card. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Joe.
Let's go through our picks again quickly, starting from the bottom, going up this time. Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. We've both picked Allen by decision. Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barrio. I picked Barrio by KO. I actually don't remember. What did you pick? You picked Chris Curtis to win by KO or decision?
Decision.
Neil Magny versus Mike Malott. I picked Malott by decision. You picked by submission. Raquel Pennington versus Myra Bueno Silva. I picked Bueno Silva by submission, as have you. Yes?
No, it was a Bueno Silva decision in the end.
Decision, sorry, my mistake. And then Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis. A contentious discussion went down between me and you over that fight. You have picked Sean Strickland by decision. I have picked Dricus Du Plessis by knockout. My word, what an episode to come back on. What a card to come back on. In a way, we got some water from that stone. We got some blood from that stone, didn't we?
I like this main event. I really like this main event.
Well, you're a mark, so whatever.
Listeners, come in and let us know. It's got to be double points for the big fights. Joe knows that already, but the thing is, he knows that those are the fights I really engage with, and that scares him. So
I did have a thought.
Embrace it.
I did have a thought of adding a third point for main events, which was what round? What round does it go to?
It's just that favour that skews you towards the decision fights. It's got to be double points for Joe. Nobody cares about some of these fights. Nobody cares, but lots of people care about Strickland DDP. Anyway, let us know, guys.
I'll think about it.
And thank you. I'm not talking to you, brother.
Okay. Cheers. Thank you, Tom.
Talk to the fans out there.
Well, thank you, fans.
They'll let you know. They'll tell you how it is. All right.
I bet you they back me on this. I like the neatness of the 10. It's historical.
Joe,
as well.
Fans like winners, Joe. Winners. People who win belts. They like me.
As I've always said, as I dismissed you before you even won it, you winning that was just fraudulent in the extreme. Anyway, listeners. By the way, I'm going to edit out everything you just said, so it's fine. Let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us. You can email us at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. And leave a comment, subscribe, all that nonsense. Goodbye. See you next week. See you next week, Tom. And when I win again.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
bye.